Unspoken Issues. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Unspoken Issues Comic Podcast. That's right. We are coming back at you with some more 90s goodness. We had a new poll right there on the Unspoken Decade Facebook, unspokendecade.com. If you guys like 90s comics, go check out the website. Make sure to join our fan community over there on the Facebooks. And I'll tell you right now, ooh, Chris Armstrong, you picked a doozy, buddy. A doozy.
Hey, the people picked it.
That's right. That's right. You picked a good couple options. Our fans chose this one. Let's go ahead. We'll talk about it and tell them what we had in regards to what were their choices.
Yeah, I wanted to do an early Image. We haven't done any Image books yet, have we? But I can recall off the top of my head. But I wanted to do an early Image. I
think we did.
I wanted to come out with an angle of guest stars. So we have early Image characters interacting with one another, which happened a few times in the early days. So one option, which I would have been really happy to also have covered, was Shadowhawk number 4, which guest starred Savage Dragon. I love both those characters. That would have been a lot of fun. But the winning option was, and which is no surprise, was WildC.A.T.s number 3, which had WildC.A.T.s versus Youngblood.
Mm-hmm. Is
probably the better comic, but I love the Savage Dragon and Shadowhawk as well.
Yeah, man. I think I have that comic. If it had Savage Dragon in it, I was buying it. I was that big of a fan. Yeah, and it was
cool that on that cover they did like a mashup style, which I think Larson had done also in the Savage Dragon Megaton Man comic, which that was the interiors as well. But on this cover of Shadowhawk, he drew Savage Dragon and Valentino drew Shadowhawk, and they were
nice.
Entangled in fisticuffs, on a rooftop. And
that's so cool. Yeah, those jam covers are awesome. That brings me to, what was it? Image
United.
Damn it.
Liefeld recently had a quote about that where he basically said that never got finished because McFarlane said he wasn't going to contribute to it anymore, basically.
Really?
And so everybody kind of lost interest, I guess.
I swear I heard that they are yes, here we go. August 7th, 2019, according to Newsarama, Todd McFarlane is open to an Image United-like project. Okay, what does that mean? Image co-founder Todd McFarlane says he's open to collaborating with his fellow Image founders on a comic book in the spirit of the long-delayed Image United. How about we finish Image United?
Right.
Let's just do that. Oh, wait a second. Possibly. McFarlane told Comic Book, I guess that's the website, when asked if he'd be willing to finish Image United, quote, "It's interesting because there's two thoughts. I'll tell you why I hesitated. You could do that book and finish it, but it would have been such a huge gap. You've got to educate a whole generation to get you there. Or do you do something new, relevant, current, that somehow gets the vibe of everything?" We are actually having some of those conversations right now. So are you saying that you will, or you just want to do something new? Okay.
Yeah, well, I'll bet that Image United probably never sees the light of day.
Would you like to hear what Liefeld says?
Sure.
Image United will be completed.
Lord.
I don't want to give a date. But I haven't given up. Oh, man. All right.
Image United was something that I was really excited about because Kirkman was writing it.
Yeah.
And we had all these people on their original, but I didn't really think it was that great once I started reading it. And it kind of loses something that Jim Lee's not there. I think he did alternate covers, but there's no Wildstorm characters because DC owns those now. There was no Wetworks because Portiseo used a new character like came up with a new character for the crossover. And it's like, hey, this is supposed to be a nostalgia punch. I don't want any new shit. Where's what works? But it wasn't bad. I was a little disappointed in that, but I would definitely be down to finish it if they were going to finish it.
So, a quick confession: I own all 3 issues and have not read a single one of them.
And maybe you'll like them more than I did. It is super cool to see all those artists like with all their distinct styles, melding together in that. Although I think they're all a little bit. The sheen has worn off a lot of their talent, I think, in the years since Image launched. I'm not as big a fan of Eric Larson's current art style. Liefeld, the same thing. Silvestri's pretty much he's still pretty sharp. McFarlane, he doesn't really draw anything anymore.
I was going to say, what does he draw? Oh, wait a second, it's been a while. Yeah,
but still, it's a really cool concept. I would like to see them finish it.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, we're not here to talk about stuff that happened just recently. I mean, come on. We got to talk about the 90s.
The classics.
That's right, buddy. The classics. So, yeah, WildC.A.T.s number 3 featuring Youngblood ran away with this poll. 47 votes to 26, according to what I saw there yesterday.
Sorry, Valentino.
Yep, we apologize. So the cover date was January of 1993, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, and the on-sale date was December 24th, 1992, just in time for Christmas. We have the title of this story was The Big Beatdown, which I thought was interesting because I, been preparing all my stuff that I was doing for Onslaught. I noticed that the inside, and I don't understand this. Maybe you could explain it if you have any idea. But you get a comic book, specifically those Marvel comic books we were getting, and I was looking at the title on the front, and then you'd open up the page. Within 2 or 3 pages, there's another title. I was like, well, wait a second, which one's the actual title? So. Anyway, what I thought was very interesting was that, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, this is called The Big Beatdown. The only place that you find that being uttered is by Maul within the first page,
right? Within
the first or second page. So anyway, cool way of making it the title by actually screaming it. Writer Brandon Choi, penciler Jim Lee, inker Scott Williams, letterer Michael Heisler, and colorist Joe Chiodo. By the way, I went and checked on this poll. There was some controversy. Somebody got in there.
Yeah.
Somebody got banned.
I figured we'd come back to this. I went on a little rant in the last episode about people hating on Liefeld. This is the same thing. A guy, did he get deleted or did he leave?
I think he got one or the other. I just remember looking at it.
His comments disappeared.
Yeah, it said comments were hidden. And I was like, but I could read them.
He blocked all of us that were arguing with him.
I could read them. When I was in there, I was able to pull them up. I saw that the discussion that was going on. It all started out with, "Do you want trash or garbage?" or something along those lines.
Right.
And I was like, "What?"
Those are your 2 choices.
I mean, come on, man. Okay. And I think it was you, called him out and said, you want to maybe explain or what the hell?
Yeah,
dude?
well, I think somebody was commenting under just the Unspoken Decade. I think it was Symbi-Fan. I'm not
certain.
Okay.
All right.
I did get in there as well at one point to be like, hey, man, this group is all about embracing these 90s comics.
That's right.
Why are you here if you're just going to shit on them? What's the point? And he was like, I like good 90s comics, not this trash, basically. And again, I said last time, I have no patience for that crap anymore. If you don't like it, that's fine. But to come in with a mean-spirited comments about how awful this is, take that shit elsewhere.
Trash. I mean, this.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that think anything that had an Image logo on it was garbage because
it's a ripoff of this and it's a ripoff of that.
Yeah, exactly. Or Liefeld can't draw feed and they need to study an anatomy book and why are the breasts so big and all this. Whatever, man. If you don't like these comics, that's fine. But
I think you can. I don't know. The 90s were an interesting time because Image comes along, and Image now is not what it was in the 90s. I think, the model for what these guys were going to do was similar to the big 2, just, a lot less restriction.
I mean, they made their name and made their bones on superhero comics.
Exactly.
So when they're doing their own thing, obviously they're going to do superhero comics.
That's right. So I'm sorry that all those tropes or all those superhero ideas were used or already, and Image kind of had to borrow them. I think
nobody bitched about Alan Moore using Charlton hero archetypes for Watchmen. Like, I mean, I'm sure some people probably did, but that doesn't mean the story's not great.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you let them tell the story. If you guys, I don't know if you've had a chance to check it out. There's currently there's a story series called Black Hammer, which if you look at, you can easily pull the relation to other superheroes right out in each character.
Yeah.
And guess what? I mean, it's a story that's being told. It's being told well. I'm not going to sit there and cry about, just because this looks like that. The biggest
Squadron Supreme are Justice League ripoffs.
Why?
People love those characters.
Exactly. One of my favorite Image characters of all time is Supreme.
Mm-hmm.
People will look at me and tell me, "Oh my gosh, this is just a Superman ripoff," and blah 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 blah. And I looked at it, you look at Supreme, and he has definitely not got the attitude that Clark Kent did.
Yeah, I mean, those early Supreme issues, especially. I mean, it was the grim and gritty '90s, and it was a what if Superman exiled himself and came back to Earth as a hardened, this grim outlook. Of pessimism, and it was a Superman archetype, but it was a completely different attitude.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely a different attitude. He took no shit. He didn't take any shit, and that's why I liked him.
Strike.
That's why exactly, and that's why I liked him. So, yeah. So trash garbage guy, he can go sell his wares elsewhere. All right, we're not buying it.
I don't know if he left the group. I'm not ever. Well, no, I shouldn't say never. I'm usually not in favor of banning people and stuff unless they're being like hateful and stuff like that. But I could care less what he has to say. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind someone coming in and have a different. Dude, I've done plenty of interactions with other podcast people that I just like. Okay, well, I don't agree, but I mean, I'm not going to click ban you, or I'm not going to unfollow you or unfriend you because your view of that and you being a belligerent asshole or being an ignorant asshole about it and coming in there with your stuff is, that doesn't, whatever. There's lines you can cross, and I just, whatever.
I was going to say somebody in that thread who I guess knew that guy kind of didn't really come to his defense, but he basically was like, hey, I worked with him at a comic shop when these comics were coming out, and we still have some hard feelings because of the way we felt about them when they came out or whatever. And it's like, it sounds like you were being a douchey comic book guy, trying to gatekeep what people should be interested in. Like, and I'm not trying to be mean to that guy because he was actually civil and stuff, but It sounded like they were asshole comic book guys, from The Simpsons, in the 90s, telling people, that they shouldn't be reading this crap, they should be reading Vertigo and whatever else. But
you got a business, you want to try and sell some stuff. WildC.A.T.s might have been a good book to invest in because I know a lot of the Image comics were selling pretty well, especially very early. So, okay. So what do we know about the WildC.A.T.s? I mean, Chris, you got any, were you reading WildC.A.T.s when it was coming out? What's your thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I was actually, as I was rereading this today in preparation, I was thinking WildC.A.T.s number 3 might be one of my most read comics of all time because, really? And that could be said for almost all of the early Image stuff because, I would get those first issues, or I would get those issues as they were coming out. I would read them, probably read them again later that night, probably read them a couple more times that week. I was up with it. Then when the next issue would come out 7 months later, I would make sure to go ahead and read them both together. I would read issues 1 and 2. And then, 3 or 4 months later when issue 4 came out, I would read 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Nice. Yeah.
So every time a new one come out, I have to go back and reread the others and then read them as like a complete story and whatnot. I did that with Darkhawk comics. I did that with a lot of Ultraverse comics, and definitely with these early Image books. And WildC.A.T.s 1 through 4, I mean, I still read that trade probably every couple years because I think it reads like an awesome big budget sci-fi action movie, 90s action movie, even better. And so, yeah, I love the original WildC.A.T.s miniseries, and One of the best issues, the inside cover of WildCats #3, there's a little note from Jim Lee, and he kind of explains how, hey, this was supposed to be a 3-issue miniseries, and issue 3 was going to be a double-sized issue with a trading card, polybag, blah, blah, blah. But,
that feels 90s.
Yeah, for sure. That came in issue 4, the polybag with the card. Mm-hmm. But he said he split it up into 4 issues because a double-sized 3rd issue was going to take even longer to produce, and they're already having problems staying on schedule. He acknowledges that. So he said, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get #3 out, and then we'll do #4 as soon as possible. So this could have been, an even bigger deal. This issue 3 could have been the final issue, but ends up getting stretched out into 2. I'll bet it was still a pretty big gap between issues 2 and 3 and issues 3 and 4. Although I don't know, I don't have it in front of me.
We could find out. I can definitely.
Hey, sure.
So WildCats #1, cover date August of '92, release date August of '92. WildCats #2, cover date October '92, release date October 30th of '92, and then WildCats #3 comes out, like we said, December 24th. So we're about 2 months. About 2 months. #4, however, comes out March of 1993. So you got to wait about a couple months. Yeah, almost 3. Really close to 3 months. But that isn't horrible. That isn't Wetworks horrible.
It was the style at the time.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, Wetworks was something that I was like, are we ever going to see that? Which I think there were good reasons for that.
That's understandable. That is understandable.
Right.
All right. Well, okay. So I was reading WildCats at the time. I don't know if I got this one. I think I got. Okay, I definitely have issue 4. So I'm looking at the cover. I absolutely have that. I don't remember reading this issue, though. And I think I would have been like, holy crap. I think if I remember correctly, one of the first Image comics that I bought was Youngblood #4. So I knew of the Youngblood characters. I knew of Chapel, I knew of Shaft, Bad/Bed, whichever one he was at this time. I think he was Bedrock at this time.
He was probably still Bedrock, yeah.
Yeah. I knew of the Youngblood characters. I knew of the WildCats characters, but I don't remember ever reading these two in the same comic. So our WildCats characters, let's get them out of the way if I can remember them off the top of my head. We got Lord Imp, who is the leader. He was a cherubim. Is that the word?
Sounds right.
Okay, we'll go with that. We have the assassin, Coda. Is she Coda Assassin? Oh my goodness. See, I don't know enough WildCats.
Is her code name.
That's right. She is a Coda Assassin, correct?
Right.
Okay.
I think Coda is like the sisterhood that she belongs to.
Got it. We have Warblade, who is a man who has knives for fingers. All right.
Right. His hands are basically the T-1000 liquid metal style. He can create blades out of them.
Yeah, that's perfect. Then we have Voodoo, who is able to the center of this whole miniseries. We'll call it a miniseries right now. That's the thought of it. Is there are an alien race called the Daemonites who are planning to come to Earth, and Voodoo has a way of the Daemonites will possess people. That's kind of like the whole thing in this particular issue. But anyway, they'll possess people, and she can extract these demonites, however you pronounce it, out of people. So I think she has like a sixth sense. Am I wrong here? Help me out.
That sounds about right. They reference her psionic abilities at one point in this. So it seems like that's kind of her power, is identifying people who are possessed by the Daemonite aliens and exorcising them. And she also... It may just be that her psionic abilities only work with these alien races, because she does that in this issue with Maul as well, but he is also half cherubim.
Okay. So let's talk about Maul.
Maul is awesome. He is essentially a Purple Hulk.
Yep.
Not as much of a Purple Hulk as Smash, the Rob Liefeld character from Awesome Entertainment. More on him in a future episode, hopefully.
Oh.
But Maul
is for me.
Maul is a scientist, but he has the ability to grow, and as his mass increases, he's a big, brutish, hulkish-looking figure, but as he can grow, and as his mass increases, his inhibitions decrease, his intelligence decreases. That becomes a factor in this issue big time. He also has 2 giant tusks coming out of his back, which I've never really understood, but hey, looks kind of cool.
Then we have Grifter, who is the gun-toting, what would you say he is, like a mercenary, or what is he?
Yeah, I would say, and he was kind of become the breakout star of WildC.A.T.s, even in the 90s and especially now, he's the one I think that most people kind of associate with. He had his own title, when New 52 launched at DC. He actually appeared in the Flashpoint Paradox animated movie, which was cool.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, briefly, but he's in there. But yeah, he's basically a merc, and he wears a face mask that kind of drapes down, over his face rather than being like a skin-tight mask. His hair is exposed, so very 90s with his trench coat, and he's got like laser guns instead of just like standard pistols, but kind of a cowboy-esque character.
Quick aside note here. I am friends with a local professional wrestler who goes by the name of Cole Cash.
That's great. Love it.
Yep.
Love it.
Goes by the name Cole Cash. And anyway, recently I see a tweet that he puts out there. He's like, man, I just wish I had my own girlfriend assassin. So I sent him a picture of Zealot, and I'm like, I know what you're talking about, bro.
Yep. You're in the know.
I am there.
That's awesome. I don't know him. I've never met him personally, but Ricochet is from a neighboring city right near here. And some of my friends went to high school with him. He's good friends with them still. And cool. He pops up here in Paducah from time to time. I've never actually met him, but he wore a Nightwing inspired suit at one of the
pay-per-views
WWE events recently, which is cool.
I watched the one you're talking about.
Yeah, a friend of mine sent me that and tagged me and was like, because me and him have kind of a running joke where I complain about the red Nightwing suit because for me it's all blue. Nightwing, it's not real Nightwing. So he sent me that and pointed out blue Nightwing forever.
I was going to say it was blue, and he had the R, which looked like a dang Robin R on his tights. Cool. Yeah, because it was like right in the middle, I think, of his tights. And I'm like, that dude is, because it's R for Ricochet, and I was like, well, shit, it's Robin, and now I'm putting it together. It's actually looking like Nightwing. I saw that one, and hey, I'm in the know there too, buddy. I'm in the know. All right, so who am I forgetting? I feel like I'm forgetting somebody.
I think
Void.
Yeah, Void. You mentioned Imp. Yeah, Void was the last. She's not on the cover, oddly.
Yeah, and she's got some weird powers. I don't know if she's actually a person. I mean, she looks like one. She looks like she's a fine lady. But I mean, I just can't figure out what the hell she does. She has.
She's got like kind of silver skin. If that's not, I mean, I guess it's a suit that kind of envelops her full body and goes over the top of her head just to where just her face is exposed. So she looks kind of like a female Silver Surfer with like the face of a regular woman. But yeah, her powers seem to just be whatever they need her to do at any given time.
I think she can transport them. I believe that happens. Yep.
She creates energy shields, stuff like that.
I forgot about my favorite character. My favorite character. That's Spartan.
Oh, yeah.
Spartan, the
he's like a synthetic human, basically.
Yeah, synthetic human. He's the leader, pretty much. I called Imp the leader. He's kind of like the guy that calls the shots, but the leader of the team when they're out there in action.
Combat leader.
There you go. Your Cyclops, if you will, but way cooler is Spartan. I've always liked Spartan. So, and Spartan's worse for wear here in this first page. But
for sure,
we could talk about Youngblood. I mean, just real quick, if you want to go across the members that are. I mean, on this cover, this cover, my gosh, this cover's beautiful.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We got Chapel, we've got Bedrock, we've got, oh my goodness, I know Shaft, I know Die Hard. Combat, that's his name. And I think
Vogue,
Vogue. Yep, is she on the front cover?
So this, I don't know if she's on the, let's see.
I don't see her there.
Don't see her on the cover, no.
She's definitely on the first page, though. So second.
Yeah, this is the home team of Youngblood, it looks like. Although I think Combat is a member of the away team, so get your continuity in straight, Mr. Lee. I'm not sure. A little snafu there, but other than that, yeah, these, and really when you think of Youngblood, you're thinking Die Hard, Chapel, Bad Rock, and Shaft. Those are the most popular, characters, the big four, sort of, at least to me. Mm-hmm. So they're all here. That checks out. The Youngblood characters are sort of the staple of Image Comics shared universe. They're like the Avengers. They're celebrities. They were kind of the first, at least to my knowledge, use of that celebrity superhero trope. That's something Liefeld brought in when he created the team for Image. And on the podcast we talked, I don't know, was it the last episode? We talked about all the pouches. He mentions in a lot of other Image books in the early days Youngblood would be referenced constantly because they were the big superheroes of the Image universe in the early days. So very cool to see them interacting with the Wildcats, which is the other big superhero team of the early Image. Cyberforce also, but they were kind of the third tier, it seems like.
Yeah. And are they government sponsored?
Yeah, the Youngblood is a government super team, a la the Avengers. They're split, at least in the early days, they were split into a home and away team. Shaft led the home team, which did domestic threats. And Sentinel was like the leader of the away team. Like in the early issues, they were in Kuwait, taking on a Saddam Hussein ripoff type character and his army, and then they also interacted with Prophet in an away team storyline.
Okay, all right. Well, I will go ahead. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to lean on you probably. Can you give us an idea of the characters and their powers? So Chapel, I don't believe this guy has any powers. He's just a government-funded. Definitely has a lot of military training.
Sure, yeah, he's like an assassin essentially. But I mean, it's kind of odd. I'm wondering how he got a job as like one of the faces of a celebrity superhero team when he's clearly a hard ass, murderer.
Yep.
Famously murdered Al Simmons, aka Spawn. We find out in a Spawn issue later on.
He's got the skull makeup there on his face, and he definitely looks imposing. Die Hard an android, or is this
he is a cyborg?
Cyborg, okay.
He actually is a lot older because he was a member of the Allies, which is a super group that was active in the World War II era, along with Super Patriot and Glory. So he is now, I guess, a cyborg. With even though he's a lot older, he's the most powerful member, with the exception maybe of Bedrock.
Okay. Bedrock being, we'll transition over to him. I remember hearing, this is a young kid. I don't think he's very old here, at least, from what I understand, but he's a big, hulking rock monster.
Right.
Goes by the name
of shoulder pads.
Yep. Goes by the name of Bedrock, and soon after this has to change his name because of legal reasons, which are addressed, I think, if I remember right, they're addressed in the comic, to Badrock. Then we have Shaft, who is the leader. He is very adept at using a bow and arrow, and two of them if he needs to. I mean, he will use two arrows. He's the leader. Then we have Combat, who I don't know much about. He's an alien, right?
Yeah, he is a Catillan, or Catillion maybe, alien warrior. He is actually another member of the Youngblood is Photon, who is a member of another race, and those two races are like at war. But they are, I guess, on friendly terms because they're both in Youngblood. Then
we have Vogue, who can you give me any idea? I mean,
he is a Russian former gymnast.
Okay.
So she doesn't really have any superpowers. She has some like throwing knives she uses, and has the purple outfit, purple hair, white face paint. I think it's just a pretty lady that I wanted to throw in there. I guess a comp would be Black Widow.
Okay. All right, man. Well, we've got our players. It's time to talk about our story. I don't think I have anything else here. We're going to talk a little bit about Liefeld after this. I have some notes on him and what what happened here, but we've got to get to the story. Let me talk about this story here real quick. All right. Spartan, Voodoo, and Maul of the Wildcats have just barely beaten a villainous Coda assassin and the mercenary Pike, which I don't even know if we get a name for the Coda assassin that's in here, but other than just Coda assassin. And the mercenary
I'm sure
Pike.
She was named in the previous issue, but I don't think they name her here.
Yeah. And have finally tracked down the vice president, Dan Quayle, who is possessed by a demonite spawn. However, the government-sponsored superhero team of Youngblood, intent on protecting Quayle and unknowing of his condition, have come to rescue him, believing the Wildcats are about to commit treason. A fight ensues as Youngblood are only interested in the VP's safety. Then, near the end of the altercation, Maul grows too big for intelligence to keep up, and Voodoo steps in to calm him down, giving the Damonite Quayle the chance to grab her and take her hostage. Confused, the leader of Youngblood, Shaft, attempts to talk the vice president out of murdering her. This gives Voodoo the chance to work her magic, exorcising the Damonite out of the vice president's body. Meanwhile, in another part of the facility, the rest of the Wildcats, Lord Imp, Warblade, Void, Grifter, and Zealot, find Hellspawn, a Damonite military commander, and they attempt to stop his plan of bringing the rest of his alien brethren to Earth for an invasion. During the fight, Pike and the Coda assassin aid Hellspawn, and they are able to defeat the other Wildcats team. Hellspawn then activates an orb that powers the gateway, allowing the opportunity for the Daemonite Armada to come through. Hooey, okay. That's
a lot going on.
Oh yeah, we're thrown in the middle of this battle. I don't know why Maul's got Dan Quayle by the throat. What is going on here?
Well, it opens right in the middle of a big mess. Issue 3 ended with them discovering that Dan Quayle was possessed by one of the Daemonites, so they had to get to him. And as soon as they catch up to him, here comes Youngblood, saying, hands off the VP. It's Wildcats versus Youngblood, but it's really just Maul versus Youngblood, because half the Wildcats team is not with them. They're on a separate splinter mission. Spartan is there, but he had his arm ripped off in the previous issue, so he's down an arm. And then Voodoo isn't much for fighting. She's more of a tool as far as being able to depossess the characters that need it and identify the bad guys and stuff. Luckily, Maul's up to the task, though. So, Spartan wants to try and talk it out with Youngblood, but Maul kind of thrusts him into the middle of a fight by just knocking down 2 of the Youngblood guys in one punch, and immediately starting to grow and lose control.
Man, you talk about some fantastic 2-page spreads. Let's just open up the comic with 1 page of Maul screaming, and then the next 4 pages are two 2-page spreads of we're going to fight, and oh yes, we're going to fight, and it's just beautiful.
You get one image of Maul holding Quayle up, and you see he's partially surrounded by all the Youngblood members who are closing in on him, and then the next panel is similar, like it's kind of from a lower angle, but it's just Chapel starting to unload gunfire and Maul just letting loose on the Youngblood guys.
Jim Lee's amazing.
People bag on Liefeld, they bag on Silvestri and some of the other artists, but I've never understood people who dislike Jim Lee's artwork, and I know they're out there, and I just don't get it. I think as far as superhero comics, he's one of the best that's ever done it, and this is a really great example of it. Like, he probably peaked around the time of Hush, maybe, the Batman run he did with Jeff Loeb, but other than that, I think his Wildcats run is better than his X-Men run. I think he's great.
One of my favorite things in the 90s, to see Image characters drawn by their creators, and then watch them get drawn by other creators.
Yeah.
I love, because right then you're like, well, this guy has a great style. And then you're like, okay, well, this guy's going to take it over. Let's see how he does. And because in my opinion, all had great artistic styles. And just to see one grab another one's character and take their rendition on it was just it was fantastic to me. It was fun to see, and that much made the issue that much more exciting to go, to watch go down.
This is the best example of it, really, because there are so many, Youngblood characters in this book. Like, Spawn showed up in an issue of Shadowhawk briefly, and Bedrock showed up in an issue of Savage Dragon. But here we get to see Jim Lee take on several Liefeld characters in this issue.
Mm-hmm. Oh man! So, dude, trying to figure out what's going to be my favorite panel. I mean, the 2-page spread is probably going to have it where Maul is hitting somebody. But when Warblade guts that one Daemonite, that was pretty cool. Freaking
that's whenever I think Warblade, that is the single image that I always pops in my head first, is the Daemonite alien, attacking, and Warblade just instantly shoves his claws through the alien's torso, and you see them pop out the back, and just hacks away on him until he's dead.
Yeah.
Which is also that's something Image did that Marvel and DC couldn't get away with at the time because of the Comics Code. The character, not every character in Image, was the Punisher, but there was a lot more brutality going on in these books. Now, whether that makes for a better story, who knows? But when you're 13, 14-year-old Chris reading these comics, it made for a much better time.
Yeah, dude. I thought it was ballsy of them to just go straight up and say, "Hey, it's Dan Quayle, the vice president."
Yeah.
Geez, okay. Well, we're not even going to pretend it's somebody else, or just make up, Quandale something.
There's no like fake politicians that a lot of times they'll show the president in a Marvel comic. They'll keep him in the shadows, so it could be anybody. You don't know if it's Obama or Bush or whatever era. That way it protects the longevity of the story, I guess. But yeah, this is firmly entrenched in 1992. So
yes, it is. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that, to me,
it's not a negative. I don't think.
No, it doesn't bother me one way or the other. I like being able to go, okay, and actually place when the comic was without actually having to figure it out by saying, oh, okay, well, that was the president at that point in time. That makes sense. Hellspawn, man, what do you think of this villain? I mean, he's got a cool look.
Yeah, very cool look. Detractors are just going to say, well, he just looks like Wolverine with Ghost Riders, flames on his
mouth. It's the Dread Dormammu.
Yeah, sure.
Shove it up your ass.
But yeah, there are definitely elements of other characters in a lot of the early Image characters. I don't care. If people don't like it, that's fine. I don't care. I think Hellspawn looks badass, and he is another one that they try to incorporate into New 52 when they did that reboot at DC. He fought Superman in an early Superman issue. Don't think he's been seen since. I think they've kind of abandoned most of those. They tried to bring the Wildstorm characters in to the main fold around that time pretty heavily. Voodoo and Grifter both had a series, but they've kind of gone away from all that. But yeah, Hellspawn looks pretty awesome.
I can't remember. I remember picking up issue 4, so I obviously know the conclusion of this.
Mm-hmm.
What sucks is I don't think I ever read much of what came before when I grabbed issue 4. So reading this is great. I got to see, number one, I got to see freaking Wildcats versus Youngblood. Wildcats issue with Youngblood in it, and to see Jim Lee and his take on the Youngblood characters was great. To see what's leading up to issue 4 is great too, because there's a great cliffhanger at the end of this issue where you're thinking, oh shit, he's bringing in a whole alien race to invade Earth, and it looks like he's going to succeed. So yeah, I like the way it ended.
I was going to say, let me throw, the best panel is probably going to be, like you said, Maul unleashing and knocking Combat and Die Hard into the wall in one punch. But there's also, I'm just going to throw some more examples of awesome stuff in this book. Bedrock and Die Hard kind of double teaming, going after Maul, with both hitting him at the same time, and he's flying back at the camera, sort of. There's the one I mentioned with Ripclaw tearing into the Daemonite. And there's also a shot later in the issue as Maul continues to grow and grow. He's almost the size of a building. And he's throwing a punch or maybe just lashing out, and you see Bedrock flying backwards and Shaft, and Bedrock at this time. And Bedrock's a huge, he's bigger than the Hulk or the size of the Hulk. But Maul has grown so big that Bedrock is like the size of a teddy bear, basically, in comparison. And then there's also a great panel of Dan Quayle shooting at Shaft, who's trying to take a gun away from him, and Shaft is flying backward with blood splurting from his head where he's been winged by the shot. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny at that point now Shaft's going to listen. Now that the vice president's almost shot his head off. Okay, well maybe
And Bedrock has a great line right after that happens. He goes, guys, does this mean we have to dust the VP? As you said, Bedrock, I think he's a 13-year-old boy.
Is he 13? Is he that young?
Who's trapped in this giant, indestructible, stone body, which is one of the reasons he was my favorite character in Youngblood as a kid, because I was 13, 12, 13 when these comics came out. Same reason I was gravitated towards Prime and Ultraverse. He was my age. So, yeah, Bedrock's very cool.
Yeah, Shaft, grit teeth. All right, I'm listening, ladies. You've got 5 seconds to show me you're not behind this. Yeah, it's time to listen, Shaft. Okay. Well, I can't deny when you've got all the members of Youngblood on one page and you've got some members of the Wildcats on one page and they're throwing down. Winner, chicken dinner. That two page blast is going to that's getting my vote too.
If you ever get a chance to pick up the trade, which I see it at Comic Cons usually for like $3 or $4 all the time, definitely worth it because it's got the whole 4-issue mini in a nice tight little package. If you get one that's unopened, because it came bagged with issue number 0 back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And issue 0 is pretty cool. It's Brett Booth doing a Jim Lee impersonation on the art, basically.
Brett Booth can't do wrong in my eyes anyway, so I'm all right with that.
He's great.
Yeah.
And it might have been one of the first things he ever did, but it kind of gives some storylines that were going on concurrent, like right before and concurrent with issue number 1, and it's worth reading as well. But the first 4 issues is like I said earlier, a great like summer blockbuster comic book.
It said Youngblood was inspired by creator Rob Liefeld's idea that if superheroes existed in real life, they would be treated as celebrities, much the same way as movie stars and athletes. The series, therefore, depicts the superhero members of Youngblood not only as they participate in adventures fighting crime and evil, but navigating the world, celebrity endorsement deals, TV show appearances, agents, managers, and the perceived pressures of celebrity life. From 1985 to 1987, Liefeld did pinups for Megaton Comics, including one of the character Ultra Girl that would see print in Ram number 1, May of 1987, and Megaton Comics Explosion number 1, June of 1987, a Who's Who type reference book, right? Carlson gave Liefeld an opportunity for his own creation, Youngblood, to see print in this form. The 2-page entry featuring the team, consisting at that point of Sentinel, Sonic, Brahma, Riptide, Cougar, Sci-Fire, and Photon, was the team's first appearance in print. 2 months later, the team appeared in an advertisement in Megaton number 8, August of 1987. Oh, wow. So, yeah, you think about that. I mean, this is before he hit Marvel.
Before Marvel, yeah.
Yeah. Indicating that it would next appear in Megaton Special number 1 by Liefeld and writer Hank Canals with a cover by artist Jerry Ordway. However, Megaton Comics went out of business before that comic was printed.
No.
Yeah, that way this is before he gets into Marvel. He's got this all ready to go, and then it's like, oh, well, I remember afterwards he used his money for Marvel for the good of all, and here we got Image Comics and Youngblood.
Yep.
So, but anyway, all right. Well, I don't really have much else to say about this issue. It's great. It's fantastic art. If you tell me, hey, Image Comics, I'm going to be like, well, recently I just read WildC.A.T.s number 3, and that's a pretty good vision of what I remember Image Comics as. Jim Lee art, characters out the wazoo, big time fights. I love every minute of it. So, anything else to add there, sir?
I think that's it.
That's it. All right. Well, let's go ahead. We'll do some plugging. Actually, let's head over to the UnspokenDecade.com. How about let's just take a look up Jim Lee? I'm sure there's going to be something on the UnspokenDecade.com involving Jim Lee.
I mean, it was his decade, basically.
Yeah. I mean, my gosh. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've got about 4 pages of articles. Hey, experiencing the Ultra Force cartoon pops up somehow.
Nice.
I don't know how did I pull that off? I don't recall putting Jim Lee's name in there. Either way, I'll take it. I will take it. You go ahead and reference it. I'll tell you what. Here's we have an Image article at the top. Some dude by the name of J.C. Armstrong.
Oh.
I don't know who this guy is, but he wrote an article that says Image at 25, the Savage Dragon. And I'll be damned.
I'm sure there's some references to Jim Lee in there.
Somehow Jim Lee is referenced. So anyway, yeah, I mean, hey, you want to, I bet you anything if you typed in Image, you are going to get, let's see, that's about 44 pages worth of stuff. So the 90s comics are there. Yeah, the 90s comics are right there at the UnspokenDecade.com. Go give it a look-see, find yourself an article, read on up. Chris, let's talk about it here, man. What do you got to plug here, sir? Let's do some plugs.
You can find me on Twitter at BrodyMan34. I usually just tweet about whatever movie I'm watching at the time. You can find some of my stuff as just referenced on the UnspokenDecade.com, and definitely keep an eye out on the Unspoken Decades Facebook page. We'll have polls up there for what we're going to do future episodes on. So let your voice be heard there.
Yeah, that's right. My gosh, if you are a fan of 90s comics, make sure to check out the UnspokenDecade.com and make sure to go over to the Unspoken Decade Facebook page and get your decision in. Help us pick what our next podcast is going to be. We'll be putting up
the vote.
That's right, baby. Speaking of the 90s. Yes, sir. So, yeah, hey, check it out. And we would love to hear from you. And don't hesitate to let us know your thoughts on it. I mean, if you want to call it trash, go right ahead. Just be ready. We're going to blast you right here on the podcast. But no, don't hesitate to let us know why you picked what you did and what your thoughts were. You know, we'd love to go in there and maybe give you a shout out. Other than that, we're out of here. That's Chris. I'm Jesse. We'll talk to you come the next show. Have a good one. Bye-bye.